Okay, let's talk about the NASA meeting that just went down and is still going down at the time of this recording, although all the juicy stuff seems to have been finished by now, if you can call it juicy. It was kind of a snooze fest, but that itself is newsworthy. So let's talk about it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, please share on social media, and let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, the part of the meeting that was of most interest, of course, was what Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, had to say, because, of course, he is the director of AARO. This whole movement over the last few years, sparked by Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and TTSA, releasing those videos, engaging the public, starting this grassroots movement, spreading the consciousness of UFOs throughout the public, and finally engaging Congress and actually getting Congress to take UFOs seriously for the first time and create an agency to study UFOs, all leading up to the appointment of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick to lead this fabulous agency into finally discovering the truth of the phenomenon and revealing it to the public. So what has he done? Well, lie, obfuscate, everything the government has been doing for these many years. So he appears to be an agent of either the control group or the Collins elite or whatever the powers that be are. And he is doing the sorts of things that you would expect him to do in his position. And I don't hold that against him. I don't have any personal grudge against the man. I'm sure he pet every puppy that he passes by. But as far as the director of AARO, well, I've got some issues. And, he goes over numbers and things. They don't ask him any interesting questions. At one point somebody says, "Oh, I've got a question you're not going to like. I'm going to ask you about numbers." And he says, "Oh, that's a great question. Let's talk about numbers." But of course, you can't trust any numbers he gives us. He lied about the numbers in the UAP report that he delivered a few months ago. From George Knapp's reporting, we know this, that Sean Kirkpatrick fudged the numbers on the UAP report that he delivered to Congress to include a bunch of already solved and mundane cases. He included those in those overall numbers so that it would appear that there are more explained cases than unexplained. But of course, that was BS. So what do we get at this hearing? Well, we get numbers. We get talk about calibrating instruments and so on and so forth. We get one video that he shares that he instantly debunks. So we know that they are sitting on a mountain of videos. According to Lou Elizondo, there are some truly mind-blowing videos that they are sitting on. They did not release any of those. The people at NASA did not ask any questions about that. The people at NASA did not ask any questions about the whistleblowers and the witnesses that have come forward. We know that people have testified to Sean Kirkpatrick and AARO about UFO crash retrievals, UFOs shutting off nuclear silos. We know that they know the names of the programs, of the UFO crash retrieval programs and the reverse engineering efforts. We think they know the locations of those facilities. So they know all this stuff. Sean knows all this stuff. NASA knows he knows all this stuff. They didn't ask any of those questions. Am I surprised by that? No, of course not. Am I disappointed? Yeah, but I didn't expect anything else. This was actually the most amusing part of the whole thing. Let's see what he has to say about being harassed by people.
And then my second question would be relative to the stigma. How damaging is that in your view? And what in particular do you think NASA can do to help remedy the situation?
Those are great questions. I'm going to take the second one first because I know we're getting short on time. The stigma has improved significantly over the years since the Navy first took this on some years ago. It is not gone, and in fact, I would argue the stigma exists inside the leadership of all of our buildings, right, wherever that is. My team and I have also been subject to lots of harassment, especially coming out of my last hearing, because people don't understand the scientific method and why we have to do the things we have to do. Right? And because we can't just come out and say, the greatest thing that could happen to me is I could come out and say, hey, I know where all these things are. Here you go.
You do.
But I don't, right? And it's going to take us time to research all that. People want answers now, and so they're actually feeding the stigma by exhibiting that kind of behavior to all of us, right? That is a bad thing. Where can NASA help? I made that recommendation on NASA should lead the scientific discourse. We need to elevate this conversation. Right? We need to have this conversation in an open environment like this where we aren't going to get harassed. Because this is
okay, so that is what he said during the UAP hearing with Senator Gillibrand and Senator Ernst as well, is that he wants the ET stuff to go to NASA. He seems to want all of this to go to NASA. That seems to be his end game. He says that AARO shouldn't need to exist. And it seems like he's trying to get all of this to go to NASA. Meanwhile, anybody that has any criticism of him, I don't know who that would be, anybody that has any criticism of him just doesn't understand the scientific method. Yeah, he actually said that. So, my wife is a scientist. I am not. I will admit to not being a scientist, but I will also admit to having done a massive amount of research on this and having some small amount, relative amount of interaction with the phenomenon. And I would like to see some level of truth, if not all the truth, brought to the American people. And I think that is our right. And it is necessary in our evolution as a race. So Sean Kirkpatrick knows where all this stuff is. He knows the program names. He's not talking about that. They are not asking him about that. He wants all the ET stuff to go to NASA, which has been hiding this stuff and probably secretly working on it for many, many years. Did he say anything interesting that could be, we could talk about? Well, he says recommendations for NASA. This is what he is recommending for NASA, which again, he thinks should be leading this effort, which of course he would, because he wants all this to go away. I mean, the powers that be want all this to go away. What better place for it to die than NASA? So, I say that sadly. I grew up loving NASA. Recommendations for NASA: unclassified, crowdsourced data following a prescribed format. Imagery from smartphones is of limited value given the resolution of the cameras, but NASA could take a lead on evaluation crowdsourced metadata. Metadata. So yeah, let's let NASA decide what's good information or not. Good idea. Let's send all our cell phone videos to NASA. Yeah, that's the ticket. Large-scale ground-based scientific instrument evaluation. NASA could examine the efficacy of using large-scale scientific instruments used in such areas as radio science, radiological detection, gravimetric, and geomagnetic measurements for UAP detection. What are the theoretical limits of detection for objects similar to the parameterized, I've never seen that word before, parameterized, okay, UAP target package provided by AARO? Earth Sciences satellites, all NASA and NOAA Earth sensing satellites and data should be reviewed relative to the parameterized UAP target. Okay, I think I got that word now. Parameter. It's the verb form of parameter. Okay. So NASA could lead a M&S effort developing representative models of UAP and then evaluating detection capability. Intentional Vice Coincidental Collection. NASA NOAA could explore techniques to integrate tip and cue collection capabilities across the scientific architecture for turning on additional collection. Peer-reviewed parameterization of advanced capabilities not yet engineered. NASA could lead the elevation of the scientific discourse on what potential form of advanced flight and propulsion capabilities would take on Earth and what signatures would be presented. Well, I would love more peer-reviewed stuff. That's, always good. But it's also good to study UFOs shutting down nuclear silos and, the government's reverse engineering program. That'd be nice too, right? Let's see, distribution of sightings. NASA could review unclassified observations. Foreign partnerships. NASA could begin to build a robust scientific community. Oh, that was one thing he talked about, was the Five Eyes, and how there was a recent briefing with the Five Eyes indicating that countries like the UK are now officially investigating UFOs and UAP. So that's something. I mean, I'll take that. It's not much. He did say that the percent of anomalous UAP collected in AARO so far is a little over 2% from over 800 documented cases. That's about 16 cases that display anomalous characteristics, according to the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. So, again, we can't trust anything the man says, and I don't hold that against him. He is just doing his job as an agent of the machine. Here's the hearing still going on. They're probably talking about calibrating instruments again. Let's see, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Who is this guy? Who is this fella? Well, Kirkpatrick was born in Columbus, Georgia, to an Army family. He grew up in the Atlanta area, where he attended the University of Georgia as an undergraduate to study physics. Dr. Kirkpatrick finished his PhD work in nonlinear and non-equilibrium phonon dynamics of rare earth doped fluoride crystals, also at the University of Georgia, and is currently an adjunct professor at UGA. Dr. Kirkpatrick began his career in defense and intelligence-related science and technology immediately out of graduate school. After receiving his PhD, he subsequently took a postdoctoral position at the University of Illinois, investigating laser-induced molecular vibrations of high explosives. He was offered a National Research Council fellowship at U.S. Naval Research Laboratory, investigating novel solid-state lasers for the Department of the Navy. Then he was recruited by the Air Force Research Laboratory to build an ultra-fast laser physics lab to investigate nonlinear optics, novel ultra-fast spectroscopic methods, and nonlinear micro-nano fabrication techniques for the Air Force. In 2003, he was offered a program manager position in the National Reconnaissance Office and converted to CIA in 2005. Then he was Chief Technology Officer in a joint CIA-DIA program, where he later became Division Chief as DIA Officer. In 2010, he was asked to serve as the Space Control Portfolio Manager for the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, Space and Intelligence Office of the Secretary of Defense. So he's the ultimate, spooky guy involved in high-level technical and scientific stuff deep within the government. So, exactly the sort of person that you would want running AARO if he was a sincere actor acting independently in an honest effort to get to the truth of the phenomenon. Unfortunately, he is not. He is also exactly the sort of person that would be recruited by the control group, as you can see by his resume. So, that's where my thinking lies. But your mileage may vary. Anyway, the meeting is a dud so far. I mean, there are still people yammering on about calibrating sensors and stuff, most likely. That's the bulk of it. We need better sensor collection, blah, 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 blah. That was the bulk of the thing. So, there he is, the man himself. So if you have seen the meeting, let me know what you think. I think it was a huge dud. Some people are saying that it was worth it just to have the meeting because it shows that we can now honestly and openly talk about UFOs in a public hearing without the giggle factor, right? So at least this is getting this out there to the public to be taken seriously. However, they would take it a lot more seriously, for example, if Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick had released a single video of an anomalous object during this presentation. He did not. Why did he not? Why did they not ask him about that? Why did they not ask him about the UFO reverse engineering programs that we know, that they know, that he knows about? Well, that's because the fix is in. And, you know, it has been ever since the powers that be started to subvert the fruition of the grassroots movement sparked by Lou Elizondo. And, you know, that is the sad fact and the sad state of affairs. And we deserve better and we should demand better. I, for one, am not going to be complacent about this. I will speak up about it. And, but, you know, there are some that think this is a good thing and that this is just okay. And that we should stop harassing poor Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. So if that's your opinion, I mean, you're totally entitled to your opinion. But I beg to differ. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. Check out some of my other videos. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.